Hello everyone, welcome to this week's stream. Today we are going to work on the Legacy. I have a series of mods planned. We are going to swap out the cooling setup for an ABVN based setup. We're going to swap out the Z steppers for integrated lead screw steppers. Hi IoTech, or Greg. We're going to swap out the Pi 0 for a Pi 3A in hopes that I can actually run some of the auto tuning ADXL input shaper stuff on here. And we're going to swap out the AB steppers for some alternate ones. So this should hopefully be a little more relaxed. I think this might end up being 2 streams. But I'm not quite sure how it's going to go. So we're just going to dive into it and chat. Feel free to ask questions. Talk about the Legacy a little bit. Legacy was released almost exactly a year ago. This was RCF's Christmas present to Voron. It is a reimagining of the earlier Voron 1 with just some newer build techniques and design. So it still runs on 8mm linear rods for all axes, including Z. It is a 2Z setup, so auto tilt, but not the third point. So bed mesh is probably highly advised on this. You can adjust your fore and aft tilt with the springs, or in my case I use silicone spacers under the bed if you need to, if it's far enough out that a bed mesh can't compensate. Hi Sanity. Default configuration is a Bowden setup. At around or at the same time last year, M4 was released as a Bowden extruder setup. I'm going to retain that. I'm going to keep this as really close to a spec Legacy. My plans for this printer are to print the 3D sets buggy on this. So I want to refresh it. I really want to be able to run the input shaper tuning, and I didn't want to have to do the print and measure method. But I found out the Pi 0 won't do the auto tuning. So I reworked some parts, new controller box, and a few other considerations that we'll go through as I build it. Sanity, Bowden is recommended, but direct drive is viable. The problem is that the 8mm linear rods aren't very stiff, so weight on the tool head is more of a concern than on other Vorons. I would recommend, if you're going direct drive, maybe go with a Galileo or something like that. But we're going to leave it Bowden because I want it to be close to what RCF released last year. I'm going to the ABVN because I am going to do a lot of PLA, and I do want that extra bit of cooling, especially on those 3D sets parts. We'll visit the website for 3D sets. Before I get too far, are we getting... I have my volume turned way down. Can everybody hear me, and can you hear the background music? I can hear it, so I'm guessing you can. Okay, so I haven't touched this printer in a long time because I've been busy on Trident, I've been busy on other projects. So it's running mainsail with some version of Clipper. It is running though. I got it turned on. If we do a home It will home. Thanks, Greg. I do have this set up for sensorless homing right now. That's why you see the large, what is that? After it homes, I can't remember what it is, but it comes back 40 millimeters. And that's based on the Clipper documentation recommendation for sensorless homing, to back off from your end stop position after it detects the stall. So it's not, I think it's so it's not tensioning or preloading the system and the belts. It will help with the next homing. On a Legacy, there's really no concerns, I don't think, with sensorless homing, because there is no Z end stop. There isn't a small 5 millimeter target to reach for your Z end stop. It's all inductive probe virtual end stop on this. So if it's off any little bit, it's not going to matter. So this was my learn how to tune sensorless homing printer, and I did that quite a few months ago, and it works great. I mean, everything. The sensitivity seems right. It's not hitting the end stop too hard. I still have physical end stops in place, but they're not hooked up. So I don't know if that comes through. You might be able to hear the switches. And then it is set up for auto Z tilt. And it'll go through this once or twice. There we go. So just confirming functionality, since I haven't used it for a while. Screen works. The screen is running one of the little STM32 mini 128 boards. So it's then connected to USB to the Raspberry Pi. I think here. See that board right here? And we are running an older version of Mainsail. So during the course of all this, we'll update Mainsail and Clipper and all that. So I think we're going to get started by shutting down the printer. I have the configuration files already saved to a local drive. I may have to grab those off the other computer, but I do have a save of them. So just in case the worst happens and we have to rebuild everything from scratch. So let's shut this down. Hi Sublime, hi Jeff. Get this power cord just kind of out of the way. So one thing I noticed, so I'm running the steppers that I decided to use on this. A lot of this was on hand. I grabbed linear rods from an old Hypercube Evolution project. I had to buy the frame. RCF sent me some of the corner blocks from his original stock of those, so kind of neat. The steppers that I'm using are all the 1 amp 40 millimeter steppers from earlier LDO purchases before they swapped them out to the 2 amp. And they work fine, but there is some resonant frequencies when I'm printing that they're hitting. So I'm going to try some different steppers, the 2 amp steppers on these, and see if that's different. Hi, John. So lots of things to do. We'll get as far as we can. If we can get it to the point of printing within the new setup today, that's great. If not, it'll extend to next week. My next stream I'm planning is a switchwire build. So I'm still planning a switchwire kit build, but I'm not sure if it'll be here in time for next week's stream. So this would be good to have. It'd be good to have some content for next week. So I think I'm going to. I think there's a lot. This is pretty ambitious how much I'm changing on this. So lots of wrenching. Feel free to chat, ask questions. Oh, I guess here, let me pull a. So when we were testing this, I did a few prints on it. Let's see if I can. Some of the sample prints I did. I think turned out pretty good. These are the two big ones that I did. Let's see if we can get some. White filament is so tough. And I know that I don't have the pressure advanced settings perfect on this Bowden setup. Good morning, Tony. Well, is it still morning where you are? So, this is a cool print. This is the, I think both of these, maybe? I know this is a Chaos Cortec print. I think this one is too, but I'm not positive. But the plan is to print, and let's bring this up. So I'm going to print their, or I've already bought the files and I have most of the, sorry, I was catching up on chat, for the buggy. So this thing is pretty cool. Learned about this from a Prusa Live not too long ago. Not too long ago, like a year ago, sorry. But I'll probably print that version of it with the headlights like this. But just the detail that they put into these is nuts. I think when they were featured on Prusa Live, this wasn't out yet. They had their, basically their Jeep Wrangler and their Land Rover crawlers out. This is a simpler build, I think, and less parts, less time. But just it's incredible. Everything they do is, there's no additional supports needed. A lot of stuff that's built in. But one thing that I really liked, and this is kind of gives you a look, this belt transmission, and that they're using belts allows them to have the swing axle like this. That's just so cool to me. So I have all the parts. I have a motor, speed controller. I had to order the belts from AliExpress, and those came in quite some time ago. The things I'm missing, probably a few fasteners, stuff like that. But this is the goal. This is why we're gonna build, refresh the Legacy. So DJ Natty, your question: what could it be if you have kind of a reverse elephant foot on the first 5 slower layers and normal 6 and up with a cooling fan at 15%? Reverse elephant as in it's sunk in instead of flared out? I'm not sure. Anybody in chat have an idea? I would look at what temperature you're printing at. There's a lot of tuning. I would be looking at temperature and cooling, and if you check the Slicers and Print Help channel on the Discord, They can probably give you a much better answer than I can. Sanity, I will be printing most of that out of PLA. Hold on. As funky as it's going to look, I am going to see what the body and everything looks like. Oh, this is not coming out well. Let's try this camera. This is much better. That's much closer. This is green slime from Printed Solid. So that's my plan for the body. We'll see. Printed a benchy with it. Okay, where were we? I get sidetracked easy. Sorry. Yeah, I gotta move on from Trident. Blam. I have 9 Vorons. So we'll get some Legacy love today. Maybe next week as well, and Switchwire after that, and then who knows what comes from there. So, okay, I was pulling this apart, so we're gonna pull the So I did a few things on this build slightly different than what's out there. The fan is intended to be mounted on the outside of the control box. I mounted it on the inside and then modeled this little grill. I also added a power supply support here that's not in the default files. I just wanted a little extra support. And then I have an earlier version of the back covers, so it's got some side cutter motivated parts. So let's see if we can get some views on what we got going on inside. Okay, so I am using an SKR E3 Mini Turbo controller board, and that gives me the 5 stepper controllers for the setup. The controller box also has the mounting points for a 1.3 or 1.4, or now a SKR2. Sanity, I'll get to that. And then a Pi Zero has a mounting point for the Pi Zero, and I think that's the main things inside here. It is a 24 volt bed. I used an Ender 3 bed. It was $18 off of Amazon. The spec setup is a Mic 6 aluminum plate with a 24 volt silicone heater though. But I use an Ender 3 bed, and then I use these little silicone spacers you can get on Amazon, intended for an Ender 3 or CR10 or whatever, and for the mounting points. Those work really well. You get a lot of a lot of deflection there. So let's see. Where am I at? And then what is this? A 350 watt Meanwhile power supply. Now the E3 Turbo, I'm still on the fence on. I had one in here and it was randomly changing, like the effect was if it changed from like 16 to 32 microsteps. And so the distance, everything was doubling in distance, and I was crashing. And it did that a few times early on, but it hasn't done it since. So we'll see. They renewed production of the 2.0 and 1.4 turbo. Okay. I had not seen that. Oops. So we're just gonna slowly take this thing apart and hope I don't lose the fasteners. The motor heat problems with Clipper. Motor heat problems with what? On the E3 Turbo or something else? Set these parts over here. Okay, I think I'm gonna want to just remove all of these. DJ Natty. I'm guessing not, because I'm not quite sure what the motor heat problems were. Or if I had them, I didn't notice it. I do like the E3 Turbo has these plug-in, I don't know what those are called, plug-in terminals. So I have like, this is my controller fan. Easy to take off. And then this is the extruder heater. I feel like I have my wire management on this pretty well done, so hopefully I can get it all back. I am running the Pi Zero through a little jumper harness for power from the SKR or the E3 Turbo and UART data. So on the new setup, I have the DC to DC 5 volt little setup. I'm hoping this will give me enough power, and I think it will, to do the same with the Pi 3A. So I don't have to run a buck converter or anything. Got a lot of plugs in here. Okay, I'm gonna have to clip some of the zip ties. Where's that going? Light. What is that? Oh, that's the... So, this is a Bowden setup and no tight turns, no tight bends anywhere, so my inductive probe wiring is just the as it came all the way into the controller. So that's what that extra thick cable is. Correct. This is serial number 001. So RCF's is serial number 000. There's the Pi Zero. I think I can use the SD card just as is, right? Okay, so that's the whole wiring harness out of the way. I've not torn into this far for at least a year. I wouldn't even think about enclosing this Sanity. If I wanted an enclosed printer, I'd build a Trident. You'd have to... It would be easier with direct drive. Just a bunch of panels, I guess. You could do something similar to Switchwire with just some panels with brackets holding them together. You could go taller on the extrusions, and then you're basically turning it into a 1.8 or Trident. I saw someone did chains on one of these, on this basic gantry. I don't know if it was the horizontal, like looped around style, or if it was mounted and hanging across the rods. But I saw pictures. Just don't remember. Okay, so there's a little better view of the turbo board. Glue stick, the change from any of the 24 volt heated printers that we have out there, we recommend the 350 watt power supply. So that would be the Switchwire or this. The rest of the printers, the 200 watt is plenty to run everything but the bed. On the rest of the printer, the bed is AC by default. Okay, so this can stay as is. Some wiring extras. So the way Legacy is set up is this big print. This thing takes forever. Has bosses in by default for all the electronics. It has the different bolt patterns for both the E3 mini boards, which the Turbo shares, and the SKR boards. Now the problem with this setup is on the E3 boards, you notice the SD card slot is pointing right into the wall. This isn't as big of a problem now that you can do the direct SD card flash with Clipper. But without that, that is a bit of a pain. I've pulled this out a couple of times, just enough to get to that card. I did start modeling a cover with an access hole there, but it's not really needed anymore with the new Clipper setup. Okay, and then you can see in there the different mounting points for the different controllers. Print turned out pretty good. This is all KVP Stellar Black, and then these are just printed inserts of Stellar Red that I glued in there. I was doing that on the new one, but I lost the couple of pieces, so I'll have to put those in later. The only problem I had, as you can see right there, I had a little cooling issue when I was printing this, and that didn't turn out great. The rest of it turned out pretty good. Sets. So this is, I'm not going to actually throw it, but it's done. I have all my pieces, bits and pieces in here for the build. Just set them over here. Did get a much better result on these parts of the print. And then I lost the two short ones, so I'll have to reprint those. But otherwise it's equivalent. I don't remember what printer I printed this on. It might have been the green V2 here. Okay. I'm just gonna start putting the electronics back in. Yeah, Sanity. I got nicely, freshly printed Stellar Red ABBN parts. Uh-oh. Never mind. I thought I missed, because I changed the model on this a little bit, so I'll show you in a second. I changed the model to fit the Pi 3A. And I think I tweaked these. So this is the bolt pattern now for the Pi 3A, where the old one, the much narrower pattern for the Pi 0. Then the problem I ran into is I use a USB cable to run the display, and there's not enough room here to make that turn, so I bought a little 90-degree adapter that I'm hoping will do fine. I'm gonna have to build a new harness for the UART and power. find the USB cable I intended to use for this. There we go. Does anybody in chat have a Legacy right now built? There we go. Now, this little harness, there's no way that's going to fit. How would this go? It is a centimeter too short. Okay. Gonna build a harness. How do you like it, Rainer? Okay, let's build a harness. And grab some wire. That'll do. I'm gonna run 20 gauge for the power, 24 for the data. So I think we would have a difficult time fitting a Pi 4 in that housing. Hold on, let me check. So you have this housing here, and normally you'd have a Pi 0 sitting right there. And remember, power supply sits in here right about like that. Now we have a full-size Pi. I don't think there's any way, without modifying it, I'm sure there's some modification or some reconfiguration of this, but I think it'd be tough. That's why I went with the 3A. I only need one USB port. I'm hoping that it'll have enough processing power to run the input shaper stuff. I'm curious if anybody's tried and can tell me whether this is a futile effort or not. What bed are you running? I only need this a little bit longer than this one, so I'm going to use this as my gauge. What are you running for a bed, Rainer? Ow! I got my finger with the tip of the cutters. I didn't draw blood, though. With a 220 volt heater and you're still having a hard time hitting 90? What are you limiting it to in your firmware? Getting some DuPont connectors here. I hate DuPont connectors. They are my least favorite to crimp. No blood, no foul. Do you know if you're limiting the maximum power to that heater, Rainer? The Voron default configurations are usually 60%. If you're basing it off of a default config, you might be able to bump that a little bit. I'd bump it just enough to get to where you want to be, especially since you're starting with only a 200 watt heater. So I mean, that's there intended for the 500 watt or whatever ends up in the bigger printers. You only need a certain amount of power per square centimeter or whatever, and I don't remember what that value is. But if you haven't checked there, I'd check there before changing. I would check there before changing your out parts. Hey, Sanity, if someone was just printing PLA and wanted to an intro to this ecosystem or whatever, or especially if they already have something, they might have some of the parts, yeah, I absolutely would recommend it, a Legacy. I think it prints great, and and I'm really excited to print that that buggy with it. This is one of the reasons I want to actually do some proper tuning with Input Shaper and stuff before I start on that project. So that's why I'm doing these refreshes. I mean, even with these couplers, I mean, the big thing with changing the Z steppers out is because I was using couplers and lead screws before, and I didn't notice any problem with them. I have them well aligned, but I have these integrated lead screw steppers, and they're 4mm lead instead of the 8mm lead I have here. So something I'll switch out while I'm already doing all this other stuff. If you're looking for an enclosed printer, I really wouldn't start here. The other drawback is there isn't a manual for this, so you have to be able to figure out an assembly yourself. So if you really want the full experience, so if you want the full, easy to assemble, cost isn't as much of an option, I'd go try it. All of the steppers I have on here are the LDO 40mm 1 amp steppers, and I have those because I bought a bunch of them, and then LDO did the trade out for them. This was ages ago, over a year ago. So traded those out for the 2 amp steppers. So couplers can be bad torques, not necessarily. But they can be. You have a lot of considerations in keeping them lined up, and the type of coupler and the quality of coupler is critical. These are not the sprung ones, so everything has to be well assembled and in line. And it seems to have worked well here in my setup. Are you raising your hand, Rigger? Because you can just type. There it is. So I only have black 20 gauge PTFE insulated wire, so I throw a little piece of red heat shrink over it for the positive wire. Oh, that's a low. Howdy, welcome back. Okay, so I'm gonna put you guys on mute for a second. I'm gonna run the heat gun. Lead screw cushions. Hi, David. So I've got something off in the Orange Trident. I was printing something, and that's why you haven't seen a finished print from me, is I'm getting skips, and it turns out I have something jamming up, and I'm sure it's a bearing or one of the toothed idlers or something is jamming up only in the x-axis. So I have it apart in the other room, trying to investigate what's going on with that. I'll report back when I figure it out. But I also swapped out the steppers from those 60mm ones to some others, and whoo boy, it's way quieter. It's so nice. I would have no problems printing with it all the time now. Those 60mm were just too much. Oh, I know what you're talking about, Sanity. Alex Kennis has a good video on stuff like that. Okay, we have, did I grab, yep, okay. Crank up these. Alex Kennis hasn't released a video in a while. He's done some updates, he moved, but some of his content is pretty entertaining. I like the guy. But he has some good info on those type of couplers and how they should work and be built. I do not like these angled offset insulation parts of the, I don't think I can get this. Let me see. Of a DuPont connector. This part right here, they're at opposite angles, and I just probably don't have the right crimper for it. But they end up being just a little bit more of a pain than the others to crimp right without having them squeeze out the side of the crimper and bend wrong. So I end up using the widest part of my crimpers here to get it started, and then I progressively move to the tighter jaw to kind of bring it in. I guess it's the second widest part that I use first. All this for the little UART power cable for the Pi. Let's see. Torx, I did check. They appear to be sitting on top of that little spot, and I didn't sand those down when I was working on it. So, and I'm pretty sure it's not the idlers. I don't have them right here. I do have them off, and I've ran something through it and tried seeing if they're binding, and they don't appear to be. So sanity, just experience. The JST connectors need just a teeny tiny, like 2 millimeters of the end of the insulation taken off, but then like the Molex or these can use like 3 millimeters. Is that what I'm using? Is that, yeah, PF6. Jaeger, I'm doing all kinds of stuff to the Legacy, including changing the Pi, and that's what I'm kind of working on right now. But we're also changing out a bunch of steppers and the part cooling fan. Yeah, when I would move the carriage around on the Trident, it very smooth in Y, but X was some rough spots, and then in the diagonals I got the rough spot, but I think it's all from that X movement. Okay, I'm going to use this. I'm going to do a sanity check myself on, I always check the GPIO pinout on a Raspberry Pi. So I hope, and I do that, and I'm going to try to keep doing this. When I need to check something or look something up, I'm going to show you the steps I go through. Like, I'll just go and search for Raspberry Pi GPIO and look for the image search. And there's going to be the GPIO pinout and just any of these. So here is kind of a diagram that I'm going to go off of. So 5 volts is the 2 in the top right corner, and then ground, and then your transmit and receive UART. So this is why I'm using a 5-pin DuPont connector here. Is I'm going to space those in that way, so I put that connector right to the corner on the Pi, and I know all those pins are going to line up. But I don't want to have to remember this, and even if I did remember it, I don't want to trust my memory. So I usually will do a search to do a sanity check to make sure I am correct. So let's go back to, so I have these the 5-pin DuPont connector, and these have, and I don't know if it'll show up, but they have a arrow on one side. So I'll use that as my pin 1, and on the Pi, I'll arrange it to where that arrow goes to the end of the connector. So, and that's going to be my red wire. That's in there all the way. So then the third one over then, according to our connector here, is going to be ground. So our black wire. And then transmit and receive. And I'm going to just go by, so I did blue for transmit, and I don't know if there's a standard on which of these should be, but as long as you cross them, because you want transmit to go to receive and receive to go to transmit on the board, between the board and the Pi. That would be handy sanity. And then on the other side, we've got the header on the, so I'll look this up too. So, but we have the header here with 5-volt power. Oh, did I need to change that? Hold on. So I'm powering this off the Pi with that little DC to DC inverter. So let's go here, and we're now gonna search for Big True Tech E3 Mini Turbo. And I want to find their GitHub page. So if we go to the SKR E3 Turbo and go to this hardware, they're going to have a pinout here. If we look at the pinout for the board, the header is the TFT header. And this is, so I think you can see my cursor. So the TFT header here, and this says TFT here. We've got the reset, which we don't use, and then the receive, transmit, ground, and power. Now we're going to use this DC to DC module that gives, I think, 2.5 amps to, it's intended for the NeoPixel circuit, but I'm not using that. If we look at, and I've worked through this before, but I need to refresh my memory. Here, let's go mini. We're going to do another search here. We're going to search for the DC module, I think. DC 5 volt 1.0 module. And this is the part. Hi, Sven. And then we are going to, I think what I decided I'm going to do, this is if you're going to do the jumper here. So there's a jumper on the board. You set this jumper if you want this board to power the NeoPixels, or the motherboard to power the NeoPixels. So I think we're going to set that, and then we'll grab our 5 volts from the NeoPixel header instead of the TFT header. Just make sure. Sorry, Bear. That's just me talking. The E3 Turbo. You're right. That's what it says right on the board. Yeah. So I'm going to revise what I'm doing here, and I haven't revised what I'm doing here. I haven't connected these. Oh, that's why I had an extra terminal. We are going to go. We have the NeoPixel connector right here next to the TFT connector. So I'm going to change that over from DuPont connectors for that to a JST connector. Just cut off that hard crimped connector and start over. Where is that? So it's the outer two. That's so you're not staring at my forehead. Just looking at the way I need to crimp it so I don't have to twist the wires around too much. Orientation of the terminal. Okay. And I got it backwards. Got it backwards anyway. Just cross them over. So I'm paying careful attention to the polarity. Here's the NeoPixel port. And down here we've got power, signal, and ground. And now I've got them arranged on the connector, I'm pretty sure correctly. Then I'm still going to use a 5-pin header for the TFT connector, so I still put that with the arrow towards the power pin on the board. Then I'll line it up with the way I had it on the old setup, because I know it worked. And there's my hopefully correct wiring harness. And then this little adapter goes from here, plugs in there, and then I need to change this jumper according to the Big Tree Tech website. And down here it says, oops, up here it says jumper over here for NeoPixel, or for using the DC to DC supply. So I don't know if you can see that, but jumper moved, that plugged in. The power into the NeoPixel port, UART cable into the TFT port, and then power into the Raspberry Pi. If anybody sees any oopsies in there, mention it in chat, please. Bend those a little bit out of the way. Let's see. Sanity. Of the printers that I have, I do a lot of printing on my original purple Trident and the 2V2s. I tend to do a lot of quick printing on the blue V0, and that one's still the original with Bowden. I've done very little printing on the gold V0 or the red V0, but the red V0 is going to go to work with me, so it won't get much printing, but it'll be a nice conversation piece. And the switch wire I've had apart for too long, so that's going to get some attention here soon. So really it's the Trident, the 2V2s, and the 1V0 that get a lot of printing. Once I figure out this X-axis issue on the orange Trident, it'll get in the mix. I think my go-to really is still the green V2. Mostly because I tend to do stuff, try things on the other ones, which takes them down more often. So I leave this one as it's a little quicker to heat up. My profile is tuned really well for it. I manage an IT service and support group for a department in the state of California. I've been doing that for... I've been a manager for 14 years, manager or supervisor. Before that, I started with the place I'm at now 21 years ago. I think this was a 300%. So this was printed with the Revo. This was one of my test prints. This was the test cube off of the orange trident. It turned out really well, but it's a very small area. The stuff I was having problems with covered more of the bed. So I'm still curious what will ultimately be the fix for that, but I need to get it fixed. This was a you couldn't have normally seen it, but this was a Revo test print too with the 0.8 nozzle and this Hatchbox translucent ABS, which is kind of weird and I don't have it set very well. But this was another just throwing stuff at the Revo. I printed one of these guys as well. The bearing stacks, Sandy, are really sensitive to your belts being lined up, and especially your 20-tooth pulleys being just right, so that belt can find... There's more space in between, because I think there's 7 millimeters for the belt on a GT2 pulley, but there's exactly 6 millimeters on these bearing stacks. So the belt being as centered as possible on these pulleys, things should fall into place. That's why when we do the 20-tooth idlers on the front, they don't have shims or anything. They're allowed to float. There has been some suggestions and some work on tweaking the front idlers because those could potentially be a source of some misalignment in the belts. Got some test pieces running that move the bolt, the tensioning bolt in line with the pulley. So very simple move. A lot of the stuff I've been working on lately is not necessarily to redesign parts and take them to the next step. It's more to work within the existing design and see what little things can be changed. Like some of the stuff going from Trident to V2.4, staying within the scope of not going all the way to like a 2.5 is what I've been working on lately. So there is another revision, super basic revision coming for V2, for Voron 2, but it's just going to include things like this. It's not going to be huge changes. I mean, like the little exhaust change that we did on Trident with the 2 bolts, that level of stuff. But we're hoping that'll help clean up the belt path and just keep things aligned and straight on a well-built printer, because all of this still relies on the end user paying attention to things like that, making sure those pulleys are lined up with the belt well, making sure that the part print quality is good and that things fit together. Let me see. I feel like I've missed something. Torx, I've seen a bunch of variations out there. I haven't looked at them in detail. like I just said, a lot of my work lately has not been to redesign things, because I feel like the major redesigns that affect what parts people are buying should be left to major revisions that I'm not working on right now. I'm not working on major revisions for anything right now. Jaeger, I did that when I built my my first Voron 2. I had everything printed for a 2.2, and then 2.4 came out, and I just found someone on the flea market that wanted them for just cost of shipping and got rid of them. Oh, thanks, Sandy. Yeah, you'd have to have a pretty big bearing to fit in here. But I thought I mean, that little bit I think was useful. I'm hoping it was useful in kind of a little bit of a, at least my mindset going into any of the revisions I'm working on. I think once I put the power supply on here, I'm going to have a hard time getting to that USB cable. So I'm going to figure out what I was going to use. Let me grab my box of USB cables. I don't know if I have it out or if I hadn't grabbed it yet. I gotta find what I was going to use to rerun. Is it this one? So this is going to go plug in there, and then just kind of tuck down. Go through there. Let's see if I have enough length. Oh yeah, I have plenty. In fact, I might want to pull some of this. I'm just gonna cheat by pulling some of this up into the slack up underneath the power supply, where it's never gonna be seen. So this little adapter I bought off Amazon. It's just a USB-A male to female right angle adapter. Steven, there are more and more pretty good quality wiring kits being made available. I used a Linneo kit on the orange Trident build, and I have no complaints. A little bit of extra wire, but you're not going to get custom exact fit from any pre-made harness, so a couple of extra loops here and there isn't a big deal. They're not the only ones that have a good harness. They're the ones that I've used. Otherwise, I've made my own. I have a Duet 2 Wi-Fi setup, Ari Borg, in this printer, but it's not running RepRap firmware, it's running Clipper. And honestly, it's going to end up getting swapped out for something else, just as I need to test. It's running great though. I have no issues with it. There's no real reason to swap it out other than I would like to test other things and new things. got lots of wiring to manage now, and swapping out these steppers. So I use those those extrusion slot covers that I talked about from Open Builds to hide a lot of the wiring on here. So let's get those out and free up the Z-stepper wiring. What else do we got here? Yeah, RepRap firmware is fine. At one point in my 3D printing life, I really wanted to have a printer that ran every different thing out there. I wanted a Marlin printer and a RepRap firmware printer and a Clipper printer. But that gets to be a bear to manage. So I've stuck with Clipper right now. See ya, Rainer. Good night. Okay, so the Z-steppers are free. The wiring for them is. I might as well, let me get this out of the way, since I think it'll be easier to manage the wires for these before I put this controller on. So we're going to skip around a little bit. Will this go up far enough to... No, I think I'm going to do this in a couple of stages. Maybe something I can set in place to keep things from falling all over the place. We'll see. Hi, Alexander. Thank you. Greetings from Germany. I think this is a good time slot for my European friends, right? Set that there. Set a couple of screwdrivers underneath the steppers so they don't just drop. It is Sunday. What time is it there, guys? I think you guys are probably in close to the same time zone. Ah, almost 10:30. Okay. One stepper. There's two. Sorry about that. Let's set it on an old beer can. So oh yeah, I cut both of these down. I don't remember. They probably came from my CR10 or something. when I built this, I don't know what I was trying to do as much as I could with parts I had on hand. That's why I didn't buy the integrated lead screw steppers yet. I ended up buying those later. So then these couplers I had from the CR10 stuff seem to work well. They don't have any spring to them, so it relied on everything being nicely in line. Yep, beer, hold my bread. Bread. I am getting a rapid mess here, but I'm going to want to keep these because it's going to give me the wire length. And these are, yeah, these are the 1 amp 0.9 degree steppers. So we're going to do some configuration changes to the new steppers. And I need to swap out the lead screw nuts because I'm going from a 8mm lead to a 4mm lead. Let me find where my okay, we're gonna get fancy. Two beers holding it. What do we got? Proof that most foreign builds are held together by a good beer. 12. Yeah. These cans are cool. One of them's from a local place called Knee Deep Brewing, and it's their Dark Saber. It's a Imperial Stout. It was pretty good. It was 11%. And then the other one, I found this somewhere. I don't remember where it's from, but it's called Mango Fett. It's from Creative Creature Brewing, and it's a mango milkshake IPA, 6%. Out of here. I like the cans on these, so I kept them around. They're kind of Star Wars themed. Voron held by beer. I think I should probably actually turn this thing on its side for installing these steppers. So I need to clean up a little bit here for that to happen. Mango Fett. Dark Saber underneath. Move this out of the way. Use every surface I can. I guess I just set it on its side. Oh boy, my areas get so, I mean, it's instantly screw. Alright, like that. What screws did I use? Are those just 8s? They must be. Insta-mess. For the most part, I don't think so, Sanity. You've got quite a mechanical advantage on any of the steppers with the lead screws. Okay. Restore some of the twist in these wires. Run them through the track again. I think these are, yeah, they're 4mm lead. They're the 1.8 / Trident spec steppers. I am really happy to finally be working on this, though. I really enjoyed and thought the Trident stream was fun. But I've been wanting to start this project for a long time, and sorry. Something in the back of my throat. Maybe breathed in a cat hair or something. I had hoped to do something on this during a week sometime, but it just never happened. Charlie's waking up. It's got a special spot on a pillow next to my desk. I did see that video on the Wizard 3D. I think it's a really good exercise for that young man. We'll see how it goes, because the process he's going through is cool, but trying to actually execute on it right now at the level he's at is going... I hope it works out for him. Let's put it that way. Because once you actually want to sell something, there is an expectation that goes along with that. And if he can handle that, then that will be fine. Good. More power to him. I think the whole process is going to just help him in his future endeavors. But hopefully he uses this right now. If he's able to support it, sure. But if he's not, at least use this as just kind of a dry run, so to speak. Okay. What did I have for the things over here? There it is. Everybody always asks me, locally, all my friends, co-workers, when I start talking about 3D printing stuff, and everybody goes straight to, how are you going to make money on it? And it's interesting that they can't seem to understand that this isn't about making money. And as soon as I have the pressure of trying to make money, it's no longer a hobby. I have no desire to sell prints, to sell anything, really. As long as I'm fortunate enough to be able to do this as a hobby, I'm happy. I'm just putting this extrusion channel in. Let's see. Yeah. I'm not making it, I'm just spending it. All of these just kind of gather here in the corner before they go up into the controller. What do I have? I got the controller there. I don't really want to set it on that face. Turn it up on its top again. I've got an unfortunate bow in this tabletop. I've confirmed it's in the bench. It's not in my printers. Yeah, I mean, I understand that, as I understand it, it's just the pressures of doing this as a company and as a business are, it's a very difficult market to compete in. I think there's lots of ways to make money in 3D printing, like you said, all those, but none of them appeal to me. As far as it becomes a job instead of a hobby. I have a local friend who I will occasionally, he works for, has worked for various in engineering capacities, and occasionally he'll come to me and offer to pay me to print something, a prototype or something, and I absolutely will do that because he's a friend and I know the expectations and the pressure that goes along with it. But a stranger, where there's an expectation of support and also the having to deal with someone who may be unreasonable, or that risk of dealing with someone that's unreasonable, I'm not interested in taking that on. What T-Rex thing? A little bit of extra space here. Okay. Oh, oh well. I was gonna use the other steppers as a gauge for how long I needed those wires, but that's okay. I'll do it after it's up in here. Now I need some zip ties. I've got zip ties. Grab a few. Oh, this one has to come out of the mix. That's the USB cable. Okay. Can we put this thing in here? What else do I have to plug into the... So I'm going to do power and data through the UART cable and the NeoPixel cable. I think I'm good. Let's go for it. I had another... What is that? What did I have there before? Hold on. Where's the other one? It fell. Things are falling all over. Oh, I'm back. I was trying to figure out where the screw went. I'm wondering if I had made a modification to this before, but I don't think so. I think I did this. I think I did right like that. There we go. Hey, Kilo. Sanity, I did not. I zip tied the cable to the bed mount here. If anybody was using a E3 or a Ender 3 bed and search my username with attachments in the Legacy channel, you'll find these. These are modified mounts for that line up with the bed, the holes on the Ender bed. Okay. This goes here. These wires feed up through here. down there like that. Oh, I forgot something. Yeah, it'll be easier to fix before I put this in. Just set this like this. Similar to last time, I forgot the heat set inserts. Little brass tool from Amazon. Turn the temperature down. Thanks, Kilo. Almost as important, subscribe if you haven't. I'm waiting for some mounts, camera mounts. I want to change the angle that I'm doing things at. I want to talk more at a camera, so I'm going to put it over here behind the monitor and have some other things, hopefully, to get a good angle on what I'm working on. We shall see. Still want to get an overhead camera. That iPhone experiment was a failure. I tried putting the Logitech webcam up there, but just the field of view and stuff was wrong. The iPhone was I thought a really good picture and angle, but it's too unreliable. What do we have? Yeah, I want to have, there would be maybe other cameras or something. I need, the whole thing's going to evolve as I figure this out. And oh, the app was $8, not $80. $7.99. I don't know how to make it more reliable, so I tried both, Kilo. The what is going on there? I got something odd going on here, so hold on. I tried both Wi-Fi and USB, and it was working great for a while. But then I think I demoed it at the beginning of the stream, and I did nothing. And later on in the stream, I wanted to look at that angle, and it had timed out. So I don't know what to do about that. Okay. This little bracket over here. Okay, so that's back in place. So for the AV steppers, right now they're just direct wired. I don't have any connectors. The steppers I'm going to put in there, I have some connectors on, so I'm going to do that. It'll also make it easier if I don't like them and I want to try something else to swap them out. So I've got the extruder, X and Y, but I don't think I have enough wire to pull through, so I think I need to run new wires for those. Yeah, that's just going to extend the length of the project. I did set the auto lock to never on that. The iPhone didn't go to sleep, it just stopped communicating. Okay, so I have this set up so those wires kind of sneak their way out of here. I'm going to just have to redo all of this, so let's just let it all come apart. Those can go over there. And these were tight because I fit I fit a bunch of wires in there behind this somehow. Let's see if I can duplicate that effort. And I'm going to leave all the wiring in place for the mechanical end stops. So, okay. I am making all of the mess. Let's show the let's see what we get there. Hey, that's pretty close. That is one of the drive modules for Legacy. It uses this screw here to set tension. And I have to say, of all the Vorons I've built, this one was the most difficult to belt. Because making this turn and sliding between on the back was a pain in the neck. So I'm hoping to get these steppers swapped without having to completely rebelt it. I don't know if I have enough belt slack to do that. I might be able to loosen the fronts. But let's see. Okay, stay there. What do we got in chat? Oh, I won't be revving. I won't be revving this. I mean, really, Legacy is supposed to be what it is. You know, it's a throwback. Is that right? Yeah. Where is that? That was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. That was not bad at all. Okay, now I think I can trying to get an angle on it now to make sure I have the pulley on there the same level I had the other one. I think I'm right there. So I can tighten them, and I can always tweak them later. Okay, one down, one to go. It's working out pretty good, I think. Just ignore the mess in the background if it comes up. I think this camera is doing pretty decent. Its autofocus is kind of going crazy, and if you look real close, you see a view of Charlie in the background, or at least there for a second. You can see the top of his head. Okay. This time, I'm going to take a measurement. Just a quick measurement to, what do I want to measure? Just a guesstimate. 24 millimeters above. Oh, I'm sure Charlie would love to attack a loose end of a belt. Let's try that. Hi, Felina. Welcome. Yes. That was incredible how easy that was. Something's gonna bite me instead. Okay, let's go back here. Nice. Okay, we are going to tension these. Okay. Everything seems even and it touches the front at the same time. Make sure it still does after tightening those up. Yep. Charlie, you come over here. A little bit of Charlie time. 2 hours in. What do you think? Is it a printer? Get enough cat hair on here so we get some in the first layer when we print. There goes the camera. What do you think? No, that didn't work out. We actually have the door closed. You can normally move between this part of the house and the rest. You ready to go? Yeah, good cat. Okay, where are we? So we have steppers replaced all around. I haven't put the lead screw nut bolts in on here yet. I guess I should probably do that because I'm going to end up turning this thing. It's going to go flying. So let's do that real quick. There we go. I like my little garage setup. This is my house has a 2-car garage and a single-car garage, kind of 90 degrees to each other. And I've turned this single-car part into my office and kind of clean-ish hobbies workplace. And the other one, I do more woodworking and my STI parks in the other one. We're gonna find out, Kilo, because I don't think so without input shaper. It's just the rods just aren't rigid enough. But we'll see what we can push it to with input shaper. I mean, that's kind of the whole reason I'm doing this. And similar to Trident, I'm not tightening these all the way. I'm tightening them to the point where there's still some friction when it moves horizontally. It's not loose. There's some friction, so if the strength of the lead screw wobbling can probably shift, but it's not gonna shift as it's trying to do a Z-hop or whatever. It's a kind of a narrow window of a good tightness. This room I think is 10 feet by 17 feet. The other one is 20 by 20. The other garage. Okay, and we'll have to grease those later because it's brass lead screw nuts. Okay. That is done. That is done. Now I need... Where did those go? Oh, I just left these, so I'll leave these. I'll leave these with the wires on them. These are once again the 1 amp 40 millimeter steppers. And I'm changing these because I was getting some resonance when printing on this before, and I'm hoping these alternate steppers won't. Okay, I'll put these out of the way. And then let's... No, I don't need this. I have the wires that cut off of these. Yeah, so the Z steppers are 1.8. I was running the 0.9s with lead screws and couplers. These couplers, but the integrated ones are 1.8. The X, Y, or AB steppers were 0.9 degree 1 amp before. Now they're the 0.9 degree 2 amp. Okay. So the couplers are going to be significantly more more susceptible to quality and installation than the integrated lead screw steppers. My setup that I was using before, I couldn't tell any Z artifacting from those couplers. I think this was a print I showed earlier, and it's really hard to see, and it's white filament, but I could not perceive any Z banding type artifacts on this. So installation, luck, whatever. Okay. On my old setup, I labeled. So the short one over here, I labeled E1. Why did I do that? I was just going to say I labeled all of my... Oh, these are the Z steppers. So I had this Z stepper plugged into extruder 1 on the board, and I had this one plugged into Z. So I'll remember that. But for what we're doing right now, I had this one plugged into Y. So that's what we'll do there. And this one plugged into X. So I am going to work on Y or X first. Okay. Just gonna get this stuff out of the way. Actually, before I do that, I'll grab my marker and mark this one. Okay, then this is going to come up and through here. I think that's what I want. Through to here, then across here, and then just enough for a connector. A microfit connector to plug into this. So that's that one. Let's do the other one, and then I'll crimp those microfits on. I was really optimistic with doing this in one stream before. I thought it could be done in one stream, but I wasn't planning on doing. This is a last minute decision to swap these out. It's possible without that in the next, or without having worked on that, I might have been able to get to printing in one stream, but that's okay. Mark that as Y. Same path. So this one's going to come out here, plugging it up there. just take these remnants. I don't use as much as I have, but it's nice to have different lengths. What are we at? How late is it where you are, Felina? Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. So you're in the same time zone as Sanity. Oh. So finally got smart and put all my microfit terminals in here instead of digging into that blister pack every time. So I had a very large collection of cutoffs for from resistors. I used to do help a friend, the same friend who I've done some print jobs for, used to run a small business centered around, if you've heard of the Megasquirt, which is an open source This says that I am not streaming. Are you guys there? I don't know what's going on. Okay. Sorry about that. On my side, it completely froze. Am I back? I think I'm back. My interface, it told me I wasn't playing, and okay, well, how is the music playing? Blurry picture. Stream is healthy. Well, we're just gonna go with it. Let me know if it doesn't improve. Looks like I lost most people anyway. The important people are still here, right? Okay. I'm gonna continue crimping then. I don't know how much of my Megasquirt story you guys caught or how much you care about. It's basically a lot of electronics work, a lot of soldering, a lot of circuit troubleshooting and repair. It was fun. I liked it. I am having some weird problems on my local network with other devices too. Like, sometimes I can't reach the printers, or my like my connected switch for my porch light stops communicating. So I'm thinking it's probably about time to do a refresh on my home network. I'm probably going to be chatting with you, Kilo, or at least putting a post in on the Discord about it. I think it's my switch I'm using is very old. The wireless access point is not as old. What do we have? Let me see if I can catch up. I have some D-Link semi-managed 16-port switch right now, and I bought it from Fry's years ago, and a relatively new Asus wireless access point that I absolutely despise, that I want to replace anyway, and that's pretty much it. I have a Aris or whatever the Motorola Surfboard got bought by or whatever for my cable modem, and then Cat 6 going to most places in my house, including to my laptop here. But it's also not too long for needing to be replaced, and I'm anxious to see what Apple ends up announcing or doing, because although I've owned a MacBook before, almost all of my devices have been PCs. But for a laptop, I could probably go with a Mac and have that little bit more breadth of experience. We'll see. I mean, my cable modem is capable of the gigabit network I have, but my provider will only give max 10 megabit upload, and that's the only thing available in the area. Okay, let's get these pinned. Oh, did I do these? Did I do these the same way I do all the rest of them? Here's the big boy. Yeah, I did. Okay. I try to keep all my pinouts consistent on the steppers, and it looked like I might have mixed that one up, but it doesn't. I guess not. So blue, red, green, black. These lined up. Okay, that's going to go through there. And that'll just hang out on the back. That's okay. Doesn't get pushed up against the wall anyway because of the stepper here and the plug. Okay. What do we got? Yeah, I was looking at that Amplify Alien Kilo. I'll probably hit you up for some suggestions, you and some of the other guys. Oh yeah, if you're new here, these are 5 times. Let's see if we can. I don't think it'll. Woo. 5 times just readers from Amazon. They are a lifesaver for working up close for me, though. Okay. That's going to go through there. All of this is going to have to get wrapped. Oh, this is going to be fun. All right, let's start with putting this stuff back on. Then I can tweak that to some reasonable length. that's going to have to get kind of close. Okay. And I have a short piece. Short piece in here, I think I was wrapping around this. So that meant this guy here. I do not only have Core XY printers. I also have a Core XZ printer. The switch wire, Core XZ. But other than that, I have had... Oh, no, I take it back. I do have a non-Core XY printer. I have a Prusa Mark III. It's been modified with the bare frame setup. With this many wires here, this is tricky to get into the extrusion slot, holding with this extrusion cover. There we go. I'll probably pull out a few here. I think that will work. That's reasonable and not too messy. Similar to over here. I have never owned a Delta. It sounds fun, but it seems like it's kind of past. There's not a lot going on in those. I have a the MMU set up as well for the Prusa, but I used it for a little bit, and now it's sitting in a box. Okay, I'm gonna try to get all this stuff back in here. This ends up just being kind of a pain, but that's okay. I mean, the only reason I would want to play with the Delta is to watch it print. So it's kind of hard to justify taking up desk space at that point. Okay. Let's see if we can get this. What the hell? Oh, hey, put the zip tie on backwards. I use the MMU for an even more basic need than that. Just the way that it manages just changing filament to another color or whatever, not necessarily in the middle of a print, but just swapping out to a different spool altogether. The automation that it used I thought worked pretty well. I don't know if I have my Bowden tube here too long. Might have been able to shorten it a little bit, but I have the space. What do I got? Hey, I got back to about the same number of viewers as I had before. Welcome back if you're coming back. I have all the parts. Well, I have all the parts for an ERCF version 1. I need to purchase the parts to update it to version 1.1, and then I'll probably use that as some build content. The schedule, which is not really a schedule, but the plan, I guess it'd be more accurate, is to do this. So realistically, this will be, I'm not going to finish this, of course, today, but realistically, this will be this week and next week. And hopefully by then, my Switchwire LDO kit will come in, and I'm going to do a single sitting, however long it takes, stream of building that kit. I think I can do it in probably quicker than I did the V0. So I did a V0 stream in Discord only when that kit came out, and that was 8 hours ish. I think the Switchwire will be quicker than that. That one I haven't posted to YouTube because it was in Discord and I wanted to be able to chat with people, and I ended up not recording the chat, so it's all me talking in response to things you don't see. Okay. This is going to be... Okay, I gotta figure out where I'm plugging things in. Let's see if I can get a better angle for you guys. Oops. Hope I didn't click on something that screwed me up. There we go. So I've got... It's going to be the... And now the last two are the Z wires, which I'm going to have to cut, and maybe before I do that, I'll throw the bed wiring up. That was exhausting, that 8-hour V0 build. Okay, so now this to, there we go. Which one is the bed? I think the bed is the top one, right? I'm pretty sure I have another, oh, well, okay, let's do it this way. Get my mouse, and now we're going to go back here, and we're going to look for, so we have our power here, Hooking this up. So we have power closest to the end of the board, and then the bed, and then heater 0 and heater 1. I really like this little pen light, and it's got a focus on it. We have lost the music, right? Why is that being lost? Let's try that again. Catching up on chat. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, so we got the bed. Right here. So we are going to plug this in and that in. Hit that right. I'm trying. I don't have a good view on this, and I know with my fingers in here, you don't either. So I'm going to turn this so I can actually see what I'm doing. Get that plugged in. Get power plugged in. There we go. There we go. So power and bed. And then we have the bed thermistor. So that means that this all just needs to be zip tied there. That's the fun zip tie to get to. Glasses and tweezers, and maybe a flashlight. I may need the full gambit of old person assists. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Is that the motto of this build? That wasn't too bad. While we're under here, got this old USB cable. So I'm going to pull the channel I have holding that in place. I put an end. I bought a bunch of micro USB ends, and that's cat hair, of course. And I made an end, so I had this micro USB at both sides because the Pi Zero. But since I have the 3A on here, I don't need that. So that's going to go there. What do we have? Let's see if I've got enough slack here. I might have to pull some. I had some slack underneath behind the power supply, so I've got plenty. More. So I want this to be comfortably plugged in right like that. And then this can still twist. And I'm just going to take one of these smaller pieces of the extrusion cover, just to tie that in place right there. And that will be enough. The feet on here, I 3D printed these out of TPU, and they just friction fit into the corner cubes, and they've been fine. Okay, that is done. Let's put I don't think I even need a zip tie there. Oh, it's been fine until I lost one. Okay, so I need to cut these to plug in here. Which one goes where? This one is, oh, that's easy to tell. Other steppers. The long one was plugged into Z. Which means the short one was plugged into E1. Plugs in right here, which means I can cut this relatively short. What do we have? And so, clean the feet. Anything that touches the surface around here gets cat hair on it. And dust. I think we will finish. Oh no, we won't. Okay. So here's the plan. We are going to finish the printer hardware stuff today. I'll finish this wiring, get this swapped over, buttoned up. Next week we'll do the ABBN upgrade and then make it work. Since we're at just about 3 hours now, but we can go a little over to finish up this stuff. Like I said, if anybody has any questions or wants to chat about anything, feel free. Working a little close over here, which is fun. I'm looking forward to that switch wire build though. I did quite a bit of assisting in the design of that printer, and it's neat some of the stuff that LDO's done to make it a more of a kit. And really looking forward to what the V2 and the Trident kits end up looking like, following along all those same lines. Where'd the other one go? So we can pull it off. Okay, so before I get these mixed up, I'm first going to pull this housing off, because I don't have a lot of these JST housings. So I'm going to recycle this. Let's just push the pins out of the way, the tabs on the terminals. Red, black. Twist this a bit. Cool. What do we got? Anything I'm missing in chat? We make plans about 3 minutes ahead of when it's supposed to happen. Last cable to crimp. Wow, until the ABB and stuff. Ah, found it. I have a pile of these somewhere, but I'm down to my last one if I don't find that pile of them. Some JST terminals. Okay. And that finishes up the steppers. Okay. What am I missing? It is getting late for you. Not getting. It's been. Let me see. I'm gonna try. I mean, this is all about trying to figure out what works for me and what works for you guys. Let's try something. Yeah. Actually, what if we do something? Just to see what kind of view we get. Oh, we get a monster truck in the background. Here we go. Does that work? What do we got? Miss anyone? Let's see if we can get the rest of this wired up. If I can stand on my tippy toes enough to see what I'm doing. What do we got? Hot end fan. I have a lot of these just kind of going in here. What do I have here? I don't know how well that's going to work, but we've got a part fan that I think goes there. Hot end temperature. So that would be this guy right here, which means this is the bed temperature. Goes right there. Let's take this down there like that. And then we got the... That was loud. Someone shut the door hard. Part fan. Hot end fan. Y end stop. Well, these aren't actually hooked. Oh, did I have these unplugged? Shouldn't. Should it matter? I'm gonna just route them because I have the sensorless homing set up. I think I have. Where did I set that up? This is the probe. Probably would have been a good idea to take a picture. And this is the hot end. Where did these go though? I have power. Oh, that's the signal. Signal, I must have gone to Z stop. Where did I get the power for that? Oh, that's what I did. Right here, if you can see, there's an always on fan power. That one right there. Let's kind of tuck these down out of the way. Okay. How did that work out from a pseudo overhead view? The focus was all over the place, huh? This is set up with sensorless homing, so we'll leave it that way. So that is that. My poor camera mount legs. I think the next thing is to transfer the fan and stuff, because I reprinted this. I didn't have to, but since I cut all this up, I wanted to move it to the new one. So I think I can push in these tabs here. And here. That guy out of there. And then I'll just pull this off. That is my only cat. Yep. Charlie. We did have another cat from the same litter. Her name was Lola, and she was deaf. We didn't find out about this until after we brought him home, but it didn't take long to figure it out. So they ended up being indoor-only cats. At some point a few years ago, Lola came down with kidney problems, bladder stones and stuff, and she didn't make it. Charlie is he's 14 and a half years old. He does have kidney disease, but he's responding well to the treatment. Lola was a black and white tuxedo coloring. And she was the funniest cat. She was deaf, so all the things you normally associate with a cat, like being quiet and stuff, she didn't do. So, like jumping down from the couch or whatever, you could hear her like grunt as she hit the ground. You know, cats they tried to be quiet. She didn't know she was making any noise. And her favorite pastime was jumping at shadows in the closet when people walked by, or in the hallway. If you walked by and created a shadow, she was right there to jump at it. And then she would sleep in the oddest positions, like completely sprawled out on her back or hugging things. It was really rather adorable. Okay, now we have this little plug here for the fan. And I think, as long as this all tucks in there, kind of cram it on there and hope it stays, and hope I didn't short anything in there. It's like cleaning your room or your house. Just don't look in the closet. Don't open the door. Go. What do we have? Well, it needs to have some flexibility so it can bow out from all the wiring. Is that what you're talking about? Actually, it's pretty nice once it's on. I just have these wires over here that need to be tucked in the spot. And normally, this fan is installed on the to the outside. Let me just, it moves freely. So normally, the by spec, or I think by the CAD, the fan's on the outside of this box. Okay. So what have we done today? We've changed the X and Y AB steppers. We've changed the Z steppers. changed out the Pi 0 for a 3A, which meant changing the whole enclosure. Oh, I missed that bolt. Everything is back together. What's left to do is I want to swap out the cooling system for the ADB in. I think that'll look pretty nice on there too. I love this dark sparkle red, or the stellar red. It is a Meanwhile PSU. It's a 350 watt. It's the LRS 350, which means it does have a fan. But I don't recall it kicking on or being noticeable. It's been a long time since I've printed with this though. Let me make sure that this, when moved to its top, still, that I have the right amount of play on my bed wiring before I forget. It appears I'm okay. So I really want to power this on right now, but I also don't want to let out any blue smoke. So we're going to call it right here. I'm going to double check my wiring. I don't want to have to replace that and not having a great view of things. I want to make sure everything's right. When we come back, probably next Sunday, we're going to swap out the cooling, and then we're going to do configuration. So all the things that changed, we're going to check the configuration. We're going to go over the Sensorless Homing. I'll show you where that documentation is and how to read it, and how I went through setting that up. And we will set up input shaper on the on this setup and run it and see how it goes. And interesting to see if these swapped steppers change the sound of the printer too. So if I power it on right now and there's magic smoke, it might be entertaining, but you're not going to see any sparks. So I don't see the entertainment value in that. But I will report back if I see anything that would have caused that. I do technically, I think I have a potential spare E3 Turbo controller if I had to. I bought one off of Amazon and they sent me one that was obviously used. It didn't have the anti-static bag. It didn't have anything. And I called them and they sent me a new one and said, don't worry about the old one. It's not, they didn't want it back. So I have one that is questionable. So with that, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming and watching. I'll keep doing this as long as I have people that want to watch it. I will see you guys next week. Thanks. Have a good rest of your weekends. Bye.